Okay, fourth graders, we are on the second half of our review for Unit 1 test. I'll be going through pages 40 through 42, and this will be the last part of the review. So number 9 says, make a place value drawing for 1,534. Hopefully you remember, and if not, this is a good thing, that's why we're reviewing. When we do a place value drawing, this is the way we show 1,000. And remember that we would break that 1,000 up into 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That is because there are 10 hundreds or 10 hundred blocks in 1,000. So if we're showing, and you don't have to break this up when you draw it, you can if you want to, but if you just want to draw a long rectangle, that's fine. So there's my 1,000, and then 500. And notice it doesn't really have to be perfect. It's more just the visual of showing how each place is related to the other place. So one of these, or 10 of these would fit into here, about. We should have 10 of these lines could fit into one of these 100 boxes. Remember, these are called quick tens. And then ones, probably not really having 10 of those dots fit in one of those lines, but you get the idea. So that's how you would represent 1,534. Okay, so the number 10, for number 10, we are rounding to the nearest place value. This is one that I noticed, a lot of fourth graders end up missing this problem on the test. It's usually because it's very hard to look at a number and round it different ways. Sometimes you'll get the same answer, sometimes you'll get different answers. So what you're going to want to do is be ready to mark this number up a little bit, but then erase what you have done. So the first thing it says is rounding to the nearest tens place. So I'm going to underline the digit that's in the tens place. I'm having trouble talking today. And draw my arrow to the ones. So the 3 is the boss. Does the 3 tell the 0 to go up or stay the same? It tells the 0 to stay the same, right? So I'll put a 0 there, and I know that that's my tens place. I might even underline it. So everything after the 0 changes to a 0. So there's only one digit after the 0, that 3, so it changed to a 0. Everything in front of the 0, or in front of the tens place, stays the same. So we've got 6, 8, 5, comma, 2. Okay. Just to show you what I mean, and then you'll do the rest yourself. Let's do the next one. Hundreds place. Underlining the digit in the hundreds place. Notice I erased my marks and I'm redoing them for the new place. 0 tells the 2 to stay the same. So I put my 2 in my hundreds place. Everything after the 2 changes to zeros. Everything in front of the 2 stays the same. So look, it's the same number. It won't always be, but sometimes that can throw fourth graders off because they think, wait, I rounded to a different place. But depending on what numbers you're working with, it could be the same, but it also will be different as well sometimes. Okay, so down here you're just practicing adding and subtracting. I'll have you just do these on your own. You've got some extra time with your homework is this as well tonight, so you can look at it very carefully. You can check your work with a calculator, and if you're still having trouble with the regrouping, you can ask an adult for help, or you can also reach out to me. You can even go back and watch a video from the previous lessons where we talked about regrouping and ungrouping. But I'm pretty sure, judging from what I've seen in small groups, that you have those skills down. So I think we're good there. Okay, at the top we have a word problem. It says there were 2,683 books at a bookstore this year sold. There were 1,317 more books sold last year. How many books were sold last year? Write an equation for the problem and then solve it. Okay, so once again, we are writing our comparison model over here. We're getting very used to this when we have word problems. So I've got my big one, my big number, I call that my total, my smaller number, and my difference. Let's see what we've got going on here. So this year is 2000. Notice that I'm just saying the first one and what I'm thinking, that's fine. This year was 2000 something. Last year, 1,000. Last year there were more. There were this many more last year. How many were sold last year? Do we know the big number? Do we know the total? We don't. We know this year. We know that there were more last year. We don't know how many there were last year, but we do know the difference between the 2 years. See that word more? That's a huge clue to tell us that this number is the difference. So I'm going to write that in my difference circle. Okay, and then I know that this number is going to be less than the number I'm looking for. Okay, how many books were sold last year? I'll put a B for my variable for books. And then thinking about what math problem, what operation am I going to use to solve this? It will be adding, and I have to write it as an equation. If it feels like fourth grade math is a little bit picky, if it feels like it's a little bit, doing several different steps when maybe you wouldn't have automatically done those steps, it is. It is, to be honest with you. We really practice writing equations. We really practice drawing models. So that is part of it. You won't feel like you're just flying through fourth grade math, quickly solving a problem. You are showing how you did it. You're writing that equation. You're explaining your answer. Okay, so we have it here. I'm going to put B equals there. I think I'll show my work here. It looks like I have some space right here. So you can actually do this yourself. You'll show your work, you'll add them up, and then put your answer here. Make sure you label, which we're going to do books. An even better label would be more books, blank more books last year. So you could do that as well. And then check your work. You can check your work. I'm fine with you checking your work with a calculator or have somebody else check and see if they get the same answer as you. Okay, so here we have break apart drawings. Notice the vocabulary words in here. Add-ins, that's going to be your two numbers that you're adding together to get to your total. So your add-ins in this model up here were these two. Those are your add-ins. Okay, so we are adding this number plus this number. So what this is doing is showing the inverse operations. It's showing that when we add, and if you wonder where I got that, I got it from right up here. All we have to do is fill these out. You don't actually have to do any math on this, which is kind of fun. These are like your number families, your word families that I'm sure you've done and will do this year as well. So adding the 1,000 number plus the 6,000 number gives us the 7,000. Adding the 6,000 number plus the 1,000 number, so just flipping them around, showing that commutative property of addition, gives us the same answer. And then over here, you're just showing that your large number would go in the top, that's your total, and then your two smaller numbers go down here. That's how you fill those out. It's not too tricky. I don't think, usually that's not one that stumps people, but you can let me know if you're having a hard time with it. Okay, part B though, you have to write a word problem that requires subtracting 1,376 from 7,651. So you'll have to think about what you're gonna create your word problem around. Probably want to use some clue words in there like more than or less than, things like that. Okay, on the back, number 14, we have a problem where there are two soccer games. There were 3,982 at the first. There were 1,886 fewer at the second game. So right now, go ahead and you know what I'm going to say, create your comparison drawing. We have a big number, we have a small number, and we have a difference. What do you think we know? Well, how can we fill this drawing in? There were 3,000 something at the first. There were 1,000 something fewer at the second. How many attended the soccer games last week? Do we know how many were at the second game? No, we don't. So I'm going to draw a little arrow because that's where I'm going to put that answer. How many were at the second game? We don't know. Do we know the big number or the smaller number? It says there were 1,000 fewer at the second one, the one we're trying to figure out. So are we trying to figure out a big number or a smaller number? We're trying to figure out a smaller number. We do know the difference number. There were this many fewer. So let's go ahead and put that in. And then do we know our big number? Yes, we do. 3,982. So what we don't know is here. We're talking about people, so we'll put a P for people as our variable. And then we can write our equation. Now, this part A is going to be asking something a little bit different. You probably already see that this is going to be a two-step problem. So let's write our equation for this first part up here. So 3,982 minus 1,886 equals P. So you'll need to set that up and figure out what P is. Once you figure that out, I'm going to write it in, but you should definitely do this work yourself. Remember, this is also homework tonight, these same pages. So if you don't have time right now, go back and do it later. Make sure you can accurately subtract those numbers and that you can set them up and show your work. So now I drew this arrow on purpose because I really wanted to remember that this number is the second soccer game. So now I have a number for the second soccer game, and I have a number for the first soccer game. How many people attended the soccer games last week? Oh, fourth grade math, especially this curriculum. It doesn't say all together. If it did, it would probably be easier to know what we're supposed to do. But it takes that word out on purpose because people don't go around in real life saying, all together or fewer than. So sometimes we don't have those clue words. But both of these games were last week, and they were the only two games that we know about. So how many people attended last week? What would we do with these two numbers? We would add them. So you'll add those two numbers up. You can set it up here in this section, and you will solve on your own. That answer must be labeled, and of course you're showing your work. And then down here, whenever you see that it says explain how you found your answer, you'll notice I'm putting a cloud around that. That's because it's a really important direction. You would get points off on this test if you didn't use complete sentences here. If you didn't say more than I added and subtracted, you really need to say why you did things. So a good answer here would be first, comma, I subtracted 1,886 from 3,982 to figure out how many people were at the second game, period. Next, comma, I added the amount of people at the first game to the amount of people at the second game, period. I got the answer of, and then you put your answer in. So notice I used 3 complete sentences to explain my work there. Okay, last but not least, number 15, you're putting these numbers in order. The only trick here is that some people don't see the least and the greatest down there. So making sure that this is the smallest number and this is the larger number. Alrighty, fourth graders, good luck, and let me know if you have any questions.